pirmiausia, tokiais šiltais plojimais Šarūną Černiauską iš sienos pasitikim. Labas, Šarūnai, ar tu turi mikrofoną? Štai jau turi.
Štai turiu.
Tu nebuvai su mumis nuo ryto, tu dabar atėjai, ar ne?
Jo.
Dirbai.
Bandžiau dirbti, šiaip dirbam, nesustojam, ką darysi, kai tokia aplinka ir tokia situacija.
Kokia situacija yra šiandien, mes žinom, bet ta situacija, kurioje tu sugalvojai pasikviesti svečią, kuris atliko Dubajaus tyrimą, buvo kokia? Koks yra kontekstas?
Pirmiausia, šlovė Ryčiui Zemkauskui, čia buvo jo idėja ir jo iniciatyva. Man teko garbė pasiūlyti variantų, ką mes galime iš užsienio kolegų atsivežti į forumą. Ir be menkiausios abejonės pasirinkau vieną žmogų, kurį labai noriu jums visiems pristatyti. Gal pradėsiu nuo iš tikrųjų mūsų bendros istorijos. Mes su Eilivu susipažinom prieš porą metų vienam tarptautiniam renginy ir, kad įsivaizduotumėt, kaip tai veikia, tai tarptautiniai tyrimų žurnalistų kooperatyvai, jie veikia su tokiu nemažu slaptumo šydu, kaip kokie veiksmo filmai, tik tai tikroviai. Tai atvažiavau į renginį ir manęs kolegos klausė, o tu nori dalyvauti naujam Dubajaus projekte? Koks naujas Dubajaus projektas? Ką, nieko negirdėjau, bet aišku noriu. Ateinam į tokį mažą kambariuką ir ten prie laptopo stovi žmogus, toksai visas išvargęs, išvarvėjęs, susivėlęs, kurio gyvenime nesu matęs. Ir jisai skelia tokią kalbą, kuri man visiškai išsprogdina smegenis, nes pasirodo Dubajus, vieta, kurią mes visi žinom kaip mega slaptumo oazę, kaip vieta, kur pasaulio turtingieji ir ne tik turtingieji ir apskritai blogieji gali priparkuoti savo pinigus ir išlikti visiškai anonimiški ir visiškai neatsekami, pasirodo, ten galima rasti dalykų ir tų dalykų yra fantastiškų. Ir šitas nuostabus žmogus, tiksli citata, galit mane cituoti ir dabar ir tikiuosi, kad Eilivai išversi, jis yra vienas iš mano mylimiausių bepročių visam pasaulyje. Jis dirbo dienom, vakarais, savaitgaliais, naktimis, jis visiems padėjo milžiniškai tarptautiniai komandai, tam, kad žmonės iš 10 valstybių galėtų parodyti, kaip švelniai tariant nekokie personažai iš mūsų visų valstybių, Lietuvą įskaitant, prisiparkuoja Dubajui ir valdo nesuvokiamos vertės turtą, kurio įgyjimo kilmė, pinigų kilmė neretai, dažnai yra neaiški. Eilivas yra absoliučiai fantastiškas kolega ir pavyzdys visiems.
Tai dabar žinai, ką padarykim, Šarūnai, jisai čia taip lyg ir stovi, bet dar jam tokio kredito netidavėm. Tai pristatykim jį, tu pasakyk jo visą vardą ir partiją, kaip reikia iš tikrųjų sakyti, ir tada aš jau paraginsiu, kad visi paplotų.
Okay, so may I introduce a dear friend and one of my favorite nutcases in the world, Eiliv Frich FLYDAL.
Thank you. Welcome. Sharunas has basically translated everything he has said himself. One of the loveliest, most important, his favorite nutcases in the world, and we are about to hear what you're actually doing, because he also said that you were a really impressive colleague who works too much and likes to help everybody. So we hope to see how that actually works in practice. Welcome, we're all ears.
Thank you very much, and likewise, Sarunas. You're also one of my favorite nutcases in the world. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate that. I'll be talking about a project that Sarunas and I did together, along with, I don't know, maybe 200 reporters globally. Reporters from more than 50 countries and more than 70 newspaper outlets around the world. It was called Dubai Unlocked, basically unlocking the property registry of Dubai to see what was in it and to use that information to identify people of public interest, such as politicians, high-level bureaucrats, criminals, business people with dirty ties, who have invested money into this very tiny but very capital-rich emirate, one of 7 in the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East. So this is basically what that leak looked like. It was shared with me by sources whom I trusted, but still every little data point that we wanted to use from this leak, and this is only a very tiny proportion of it. It was more than 800,000 lines of information about single properties in Dubai. So every tiny bit of detail that we wanted to do journalism on, because data is not journalism, data is just data. If you're lucky, it reflects reality. If you're unlucky, it's just lying to you, right? So every little bit of piece of information we wanted to use, we had to verify with the real world. And this doesn't look much, but our work was to try and turn this into journalism. And when I got this, I just looked at it and I was thinking, I'm just one reporter in one country. So it's no point just diving into this alone. And I asked colleagues abroad to come in and collaborate. Some newspaper outlets and TV outlets that I knew, where I had colleagues and friends I knew would be interested. But then also I reached out to OCCRP, which is Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, an international global investigative partner that organizes such collaborations. And they brought on board a lot of outlets. So I'll start by presenting the end result, and then we'll go into how we got there, basically, right? So I think we're now heading at 250 articles and counting. And focus is stories of public interest. And the leak consists of approximately 510,000 residential properties, 203,000 owners from 203 countries, and a very conservative estimate of the total value of these properties are approximately $386 billion US, and that was a couple of years back, so it's far higher now. And this. Some of these figures we got by asking professionals within academic circles, professors of economy and finances, to join the project not as a partner, they're not a media house, not a publishing partner, but they could do the advanced mathematics and calculations on some of the data that we weren't able to do, since we're journalists and we're obviously not professors of finance and mathematics. These are some of the outlets that were in the collaboration. And this is when distributed on countries, and you will see Vilnius up here, distributed on countries. This is the total value of the properties owned by individuals connected to the different countries, right? So you could see that in London, for example, there's obviously a lot of investors, India, Pakistan, a lot of investors, a very high value investment, so on. And that also gave us an idea about where to get partners, right? Because when you get data like this, and this could just be national data, this could be that you're looking into court sentences on domestic violence, right? And you just break them down on regions and cities, and you figure out what outlets you want to work with to try and break this story, right? Some of these stories we did are here. There was everything from armed dealers and drug lords who were scooping up properties in Dubai. There was the cronies from the late Yanukovych government in Ukraine that was toppled through democratic elections and pressure. There was the crypto queen, if you remember her OneCoin crypto queen. There was the gang members of Swedish crime cartels and Chinese money launderers. And of course, your very own favorite here, the story that Sarunas did. And the stories were very different from the different countries. I think Lithuania's story was very kind of a classic shady business people or politicians or well-off people who needed to get rid of money. But in some African nations, we saw that it was kind of very much the very upper political elite who would use this Dubai as basically a pension fund. And you could see kind of large parts of governments where everyone were invested in Dubai because either they were afraid to be toppled and then they needed a safe haven, somewhere to go, or there were money that should never see the day of light back in their home country. I think you gotta have fun at work, right? I mean, you gotta, like, journalism is about having fun. Not necessarily at somebody else's expense, sometimes, but usually just enjoying your work and looking for, fun things to do, like making an illustration of Burj Khalifa as in cocaine, to illustrate how Dutch and Belgian drug smugglers were investing their ill-gotten means from the European cocaine trade in Dubai properties. Then we have the Times that reported how crooks were buying up villas and flats, even when sitting inside jail. Not sure if they got access to web through the library or how they did it, but they managed to trade with money they had stolen from inside their jails. In Portugal, we saw how UAE never sent the criminals back to Portugal or to Spain, but they instead let them invest. So they made a point out of that. And of course, we could see how the Russians were buying up Dubai property after the 2002 full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and how the Russians, usually stopped by sanctions in a lot of countries, were able to freely invest in Dubai. Of course, the notorious Isabel dos Santos. If you remember, this is Anna Chapman, who was arrested in, I think, 2010 and sent on a plane out of New York for being part of a large Russian spy circle. She's been on a couple of TV shows and doing some promo work in Moscow since then, but never any traces of her abroad until we found her in the property register. So this is from my newspaper, and it's one of the times when I enjoyed myself at work, and we could make it a rhyme. Here is the spy in Dubai. It actually rhymed. So we were very happy with that title. And of course, the cocaine kingpin Daniel Kinahan and his wife scooping off properties as well. Okay. Oh yeah, and we got to link them to the royal family in the Emirates. We also used it in ongoing investigations. So this is a family in Norway several people have been to prison over criminal activities. And we could cover their court case where they were sitting in court saying that, no, we're broke. We don't have any money at all. And then we could, even half year after publication, we could go back to the raw data and we could say, well, in fact, they're not broke. They own this place. And they were sitting in court declaring they have no money to pay their outstanding tax bills, right? And then sitting in court, it was possible to live prove that they do, in fact, have a lot of cash. It got some reactions as well internationally, especially on EU level. Now, the question is, of course, how is this possible? How is it possible that a place that is a part of the civilized world, where you have government institutions and you have all these kind of the structures of a modern run state, not necessarily a welfare state, but they do have courts, they do have police. In fact, it's a police state, technically speaking. How is it possible that they can do this? And our very good colleagues in SVT, Swedish State Television, traveled there undercover, posing as somebody interested in buying property, in order to identify one of the flats owned by a Swedish gangster who was currently serving time in jail. And they got to do a very interesting interview and show how this was all linked to Swedish organized crime.
Ja, han som skulle bli dödad, golaren, klarar sig. Istället skjuter man den som har lockat hit det egentliga offret.
So there are English lyrics or English subtitles. I hope you can see them. If not, just stand up. And
The
stand
man
at the bar
called
and
the
look
Swede
cool.
survives. But soon after, his mother's house is blown up. A vital piece of the investigation is another mobile phone. It is found at the scene of the murder and belongs to the dead man. In it, the police read how El Patron has organized the hit. The investigators then find clues to more unsolved murders in Sweden, which can now be linked to Shabani's gang. The hunt for El Patron is on, and the Swedish prosecutor needs help from the authorities in Dubai.
Hur ser du på det här samarbetet då mellan Sverige och Förenade Arabemiraten?
Ja, kan man kalla det samarbete? Vi har väl inget samarbete. Vi har ju skrivit till Dubai och begärt rättshjälp, men vi får ju inga svar därifrån. Man skickar en begäran. Det är ju under förutsättningen av deras välvilja att de tycker att det här är bra, att vi hjälper varandra.
At the same time as the international warrant is put out for Salam Shabani, his apartment in Dubai is ready to be moved into. The question is, who lives there today?
Sväng höger.
We have booked a meeting with Damak Properties, one of Dubai's biggest property management companies, which built the building where Shabani bought his apartment. We pretend to be in the market for an apartment, and we record the meeting. Both to see how carefully they look into a new buyer in 2024 who doesn't want to reveal where the money comes from. And also to get a look around the building and knock on Shabani's door.
I'm interested in Avanti.
Avanti?
Yeah, specifically.
You are interested in one bedroom or two bedroom, what is it?
I mean, it depends on how they look.
On its website, the company offers several payment options. And during the meeting, the salesman says the purchase can even be made in cash.
We have to accept full cash payment.
What did you say? What does it mean, full cash?
Full cash, if you bring buys of cash, we can accept it.
You can do that? How much is it?
50 million, 60 million, 100 million dirhams. There is no limit on cash.
The property, where Shabani's apartment is, only has 2 flats available. But we're in luck.
This is 6th floor and 11th floor.
Sorry, what did you say? This one is better or the other
The
one?
other one.
On the 6th floor.
Yeah.
That's perfect. It's on the same floor as Shabani's apartment.
When you want to see it?
Yes, now if it's possible. Do it again?
Yeah.
It's furnished.
So what's included? I mean,
Like it is.
It's a big 2-room flat with a balcony, almost identical to Shabani's. And the value's around 400,000 US dollars.
Looks new.
While pretending to be interested buyers, we go out in the corridor to look for apartment number 610, the one the Shabani owns.
you know, this is the address that
You have someone you know here.
the safe. Yeah.
No one seems to be here.
Is it to that? Yes.
But the apartment is rented out and remains here as a sort of retirement insurance for the murderous El Patron. Before we part, the salesman keeps making promises of different payment options, such as Hawala, the informal transaction system where the money is handed over to an exchange service in Europe and paid out here.
This is my promise. Don't feel worried about any transactions. It will be done. That's it. If it's not bank transfer, then it's perfectly fine.
And no questions asked.
There is zero risk, zero question on that. And all the process, it will go through me.
And if the Swedish authorities would ask for any things that I might own in Dubai?
So, properties is something untouchable.
How can you be so sure?
I'm so sure. I know the system in Dubai. It's not like... I know Europe is so difficult. Dubai is totally different. We have a lot of people from all over the world. We have people who's running from their countries to invest here with full cash.
Only cash?
Cash, exactly.
The salesman of one of Dubai's biggest property companies is not alone in offering the apartments for cash. Our international partners get the same offer when they, armed with hidden microphones, speak with several sellers at the MAC and other property companies in Dubai.
Trust me, I've been collecting cash even to my customers who they are outside of the country. They send me to location, I collect 1 million, 2 million dirhams and deposit in the office.
I mean, I'm a bit concerned, as I mentioned earlier, that this government will be tougher on dirty money from abroad, because they say that they will be more strict to find dirty money, find money laundering. That's why.
It's been told since 2008. Actually. It's not something new that they will do so. Yes. But properties is always totally safe. Dubai it's like a big company, and the rulers of Dubai, they are the owners of the city of the dreams. It's blowing your mind, the city.
All right. So that's a part of the explanation. The other part is obviously that it's possible to move money out of Europe and other jurisdictions quite easily, either through Hawala, now crypto. You can buy property with crypto in Dubai. So there is a responsibility on our end as well, of course. But I think this serves as a great explanation. Now, as one of the most important things that we've been working on in this project is to try and identify who are the likely people to invest. There are two ways when you have such a big data set. There's too many people to scroll through. You can have thousands of people from one country. Like from Russia, there was 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people who'd invested. And I don't know the name of all of them. So you can cross-reference with Interpol data. You can cross-reference with other kind of large sources, sanctions, for example. But the other thing you can do is to try and think about cases you've read, ask people you know, who would be likely to invest in Dubai? Maybe we should just look at them, look if they're in the data, right? And then you find some people, and you can try and analyze who would that be from the following list of good reasons to invest in Dubai, if you put on your criminal mind hat. First of all, it's a modern city and close to zero tax. Then it's great for vacations. Or you can have family visit there while you yourself is on the run. There are several drug dealers, like drug runners and others who just fly their families in and out of there, and they hang out in Dubai. Then you have extensive secrecy, and it's easy to set up shell companies. You can arrive easily and have long stays on a golden visa if you buy property. Weak extradition treaties. You have direct flights to Europe, Moscow, Singapore, India, and Pakistan. You can buy property with cash or crypto. It's cheap to launder money via real estate, and you get a good return of investment. Actually, before we deal with that, can somebody tell me what is the cost of laundering money in Vilnius? If I was to bring a bag, this is my suitcase with €1 million, and I want to launder it now, and I walk onto the street and I look for somebody to launder it for me, how much would that cost me? Sorry? 15%. That's cheap. They got a really good infrastructure. In Oslo, I think the price is 40, and there's risks. You launder it via restaurants, obviously. You can do that. It's considered pretty safe. If you launder it via drugs, you risk that both the drugs and the people doing the job for you are going to get either killed or imprisoned. So there's a larger risk. But of course, they have insurance systems to make sure that you get at least a share of your money anyways, right? 15%, I mean, then you almost don't want to go to Dubai and do it. But unless for one reason, not only can you launder your money, you can make a hell of a good pay from that. You can create a fortune from laundering your money, because if you invest it in a property on the marina, not only will your money be out of the way, but you will also gain a 5 to 10% annually income revenue from those money. And that is that's better than the banks, right? And it's considered pretty safe because nobody's going to force the properties off you. So this is, if you were a criminal, this is all great reasons for going to Dubai. And one of the things we learned in this project was to take our law-abiding, nice-behaving journalist brains and try and tweak them and look into, so what would be the motivation? And so what kind of people would want to do it this way, and then start looking them up in the data. Well, if you ask AI to draw it, I think it would be something like this, like a guinea pig, or savings, and also you can go there for vacations. So the morale of this and the morale of everything, do you know who this guy is up in the left-hand corner? Yeah, some of you say his name, say who he is. Yeah, right. And what was he doing? He was producing and selling drugs. He was a teacher. This is from the Breaking Bad TV series. What was his biggest problem in life? Sorry? Yeah, and he couldn't launder his money. He had too much money. He couldn't spend them anywhere because he was going to get caught, right? So he took all the cash and tried to stash them somewhere. And he even actually bought a physical car laundry business, right, to do it. And he was buying his shitty food at KFC because he couldn't go to a nice restaurant because then he would get caught. So the morale of, what Dubai's basically telling you is, don't be him, be this guy, right? Who would you want to be? You would? Okay, well, I like you, man. Well, I think a lot of people would want to be the untroubled guy to the right. So, and this is a newspaper advertisement I read in a hotel in Sweden just after publishing, and I was sick and tired of Dubai, and I just wanted to have beers and have a good time. And I opened the paper, and this is the ad on page 6 or something. Dubai, a different world, only 6 hours away. So, okay, methods, let's get more boring. So, one of the things when you get a data set like this, or any other large data set, of course, you want to make sure it's true what's in there, right? You want to make sure nobody removed something because of their personal interest or maybe added fake information. You can never really know, unless you just make sure to verify everything you find in the real world. But one of the ways to investigate such data is to do bulk matching. And so we could work in C4AD's database, looking at, for example, Daniel Joseph Kinahan. We could see his passport number. We could do kind of single lookups. And that was fine. But it's not very helpful when you're looking into a lot of people. Let's see if it actually will start, because if it starts, then there's something interesting there. The real strength of the project was to develop methods to analyze, to cross-reference our data with other huge data sets. So we scraped the Interpol website. Interpol wouldn't give us the data of everyone who they had a red notice on, because they said it belonged to the different police districts or national police forces. So we scraped the Interpol website. That took a couple of days. We used sanction data, opensanctions.org, to get large chunks of information. And then we used that to cross-reference. So it's not starting. But anyway, so we used a computer program called R, which is for statistical analysis. You can use it to cross-reference large chunks of data. You can use Python. They're different. And through that, for example, we found how 105 British or British-linked bankrupts, disqualified directors, tax cheaters, and people under investigation were identified as having bought property in the United Arab Emirates. And that took like 3 seconds instead of taking 2 years to read through. And that's what the script looked like, basically, matching the data from one data set with data from another data set. One of these guys had even been hanging out with Gordon Brown, so we could make it a celebrity story. And I very strongly believe in the 3 C's for journalism, which is celebrity, conflict, and consequence. And you can maybe think that's a little tabloid, but the celebrity doesn't have to be kind of a TV star movie celebrity. It could also be a politician or an organization or a sheikh. We were able to match it against sanctions. And we could see how they were letting people funding terror groups making millions of Dubai properties, even if they were also on the UAE sanctions lists. And we published 400 plus individual on OCCRP.org that you can go there now and you can search through different countries and see what criminals from different countries are owning. This is the guy who ordered the beheading of Khashoggi in the Turkish embassy. And he has plenty of wealth invested. And this is the type of information we had in the leak. And then we managed to bypass some systems and get hold of tenant data, so we could find out who was renting properties. And that was fun. We could see how we could match transaction and tenant data and see how much more people than we already knew about were living there. And we can also show how, because once we knew that somebody was a tenant and there was a person renting out that flat, like normally you don't pay tax from owning property abroad, or the tax is very low, but you have to tax from income, revenue you have from the property. That is usually capital gain tax or income tax. So then we're talking a lot more money. And if you can rent out a property on the marina for, say, 30,000 euros a year, well, you're going to have to be taxing something like 4,000 euros or 5,000 euros or something like that. So we were able to show how people were making huge amount of profits from these properties as well. Then there was a lot of OSINT work. I know we're a little behind, but these are the type of documents and outside verification systems that we use. So whenever you investigate property is a very grateful thing to be investing, because there's always a huge property trail on properties. Like there's always documents on properties everywhere, local, regional, state level. Is that my cue to shut up? Okay, but we'll be quick. Also, this website is still really good, 2gis.ae. You can use it to investigate single properties if you ever need to investigate. Or I would actually recommend good old Google Earth, the downloadable version, where because we're wondering like, when was this villa built? And you just go back in time on satellite imagery. We could see from 2010 there was only sand there, and we can use this to verify the point of time when the swimming pool had been filled, even just using publicly available satellite imagery of Google Earth, and also verify the size of the properties that were in the leak, because we're able to look, okay, so in the leak it says that this property here should be 1,815 square meters. When I by hand just manually drew a square around the property, I got to 1,724 square meters, which is 100 less, which basically means it's the same property, I just can't see exactly where to draw. So there's ways to map things from the outside like this. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there, and then I'm going to give the floor back to you, and for discussion, questions, or if you want to tell me what Sarnas was saying about me, I'll also appreciate that.
At this point, thank you very much. We will not have that much time, and in a way that was a clue to sort of start wrapping up, but I can see that there is a lot of interesting material, and I just thought one of the first things I would ask you is whether all of that material is available somewhere so that people who are interested could find it.
Yes and no. I would recommend you to get in touch with OCCRP or Sarnas. You'll be a very popular man. And then ask for help to get in touch with OCCRP. And if you are with a media outlet, then they will do a decision on whether to hand you access or not, basically. That's the best that I can.
What about if we want to follow what you do? Is there a way? Social networks somewhere, or are you like completely undercover everywhere?
No, I'm on Facebook, and I never post anything private on Facebook or anywhere else, but I actually post mostly work things on Facebook. So you'll find me there. I don't use Twitter or X anymore for some obvious reasons. But I think that's the best. And also, my email is very easy. It's my first name, eiliv@vg.no. So it's vg.no, and my first name that it's in the program, I guess.
Knowing it's not that easy to find you, let's provide people with an opportunity to ask at least one or two questions. If there is anything you want to know, we've got a microphone, and the microphone is going directly to row 2. Rytis or someone else, could you give the microphone to the gentleman?
When you were doing this investigation, were you afraid that there might be some danger directly to you from the mafia or the higher ups?
So we were coordinating a huge investigation. It was me and a couple of others doing in the organizing committee, and then we had kind of a broader, very flat structure with all the media outlets. And one of the things we had to do when doing this was exactly to do a risk assessment. And as for example, for Pakistan, where we collaborated with 2 outlets, we collaborated on purpose with 2 outlets because we knew that there was a high risk that government members or others would go after at least one of the media outlets. And then if they did, there would also be another one. We also made sure that the reporter working on this worked from London. So the data was technically also outside of Pakistan, and you couldn't it wouldn't make sense for the regime to go and confiscate it in the newspaper, in the outlets' offices. As for myself, I never fly via the Emirates when I go on international flights, and I probably won't for the foreseeable future. And it's really not a big loss.
But do you generally feel safe when you walk on the streets?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have colleagues who've done much more challenging work than this security-wise. But you take precautions. Like most of you here are either journalists or journalist students, right? And I would encourage all of you to think about your future self. In 5 years from now, are you living your life and sharing your data or not sharing your data in a way that will make you able to do an investigation where you might receive a threat? What apps are you sharing your contacts with? Are you sharing them with Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp? Are you sharing them with some other? Are you on Strava? Are you sharing your location via GPS while you're out exercising? Do you have a restaurant app where you share your profile and make bookings so people can figure out where you're going to be in the future? Do you have the habit of posting where you are? Think about all those things. I'm pretty sure you could live without most of them. And so instead of basically standing like this on the web, you want to stand like this and make as small a profile as possible. Because you're not going to be able to clean up in the mess you left behind once you need it. When you get a leak in your hand or your boss is asking you to work on a story and you understand that this is a story where we're going to meet a lot of opposition. Like there's going to be either government members or from a private company or from organized crime. They're going to give pushbacks, right? And then you want to work on the story. You don't want to clean up your digital life. So start by doing that now instead. And then you're free to do what you want afterwards.
Ar mes turime laiko dar vienam klausimui?
We will take another question.
Taip, prašau, labai trumpai.
Yeah. So my question was, what was your biggest motivator for all of this, and what inspired you to even start this? Because it seems like a lot of work and a lot of like danger you have to put on yourself. So
it was a lot of work. I think I did 200-300 hours of overtime in 3 or 4 months. Well, it's fun and interesting. Mostly, you want to do fun stories. You want to do cool stories. You want to work with other people who are into what you're into, right? We're never going to be good at what we do if we are not having fun at work or don't find it interesting. So go for the stories that fascinate you, that interest you, that have an impact, that will get a lot of attention, right? Because then you're going to have fun at work, and you're going to just drop whatever else you're doing, and you're going to do that. So think of it as like an acceleration. You know, the more fun you have, the more fun you're going to have, the more interesting stories you're going to have. And look for those stories. I know it sounds very simplistic, but for me, that was the main motivation. I got to work with Saunas, I got to work with other people I knew, and do stories that were going to be read.
It's not really simplistic, it's the fundamental stuff. And thank you for reminding us of that. Thank you for all of the instrumental advice that you have given. I hope that you're staying with us for a little bit and people can approach you at the end. For now, what we'll do is we will deliver a big hand thanking you for being here and sharing the stories with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.